Sorry. I'm trying to set up the streaming behind the scene. Maybe I will stream it live on YouTube as said. Okay. Sorry, we are live on the device I'm using, Frida. I don't have any music currently in there. Pardon me. If
from YouTube, sir. Also, I think we need to invite more people to join because some are complaining of the previous link.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. Let me just play from YouTube. As I said, it's a wonderful advice. I don't know what that is. Can anyone hear the sound? Hello?
No, we cannot hear the sound.
The sound is not coming.
I hope you're not playing on the microphone.
Can we hear?
No, it is not coming.
Uh, I'm sorry, I'm having issues playing it, and I apologize, Transfeeder, for that. Moderator, if you can hear me, we can just start until I figure it out. Then we'll see what we can do, if you can hear me.
All right, can we just have 3 more minutes? I can't see all the speakers here. They are still joining.
Mesdames et messieurs, l'appareil sera approvisionné en fioul dans quelques instants. Pour raison de sécurité, nous vous prions d'éteindre vos équipements
Now it is coming,
électriques
Tama.
vos ceintures de sécurité vibrées jusqu'à la fin de l'approvisionnement. Assurez-vous également que vos bagages au couloir, ni les issues au couloir, ni les issues de sécurité.
Can anyone hear the sound?
No, I think we can just start. Please.
I don't know where the problem is from now.
We can hear now. We can hear now.
Now it is coming very fine.
Hanemaya, se Acha tu kama kijiti kidogo kidogo anachukua. Toa tu vijiti kidogo kidogo kule kwanza.
Barakata ule atina mulu mangana nimbangu nyima faida bango dingolu alingana kafunyuma Tunya mangi misani mbango dinyala mume Nintata dunia kono nying bango la diamba fola Gamia nyonke Gamia kole Ninambango nyimati Gamia kole Nimbango kairama Gamia kole Ninamola bangoti Gambiankole Ninanyomansia Gambiankole Ninambango nyimati Gambiankole Nimbango kairama Gambiankole Ninamola bangoti Gambiankole Ninanyomansia
So we're enjoying other music. So we just stop it now so that we can continue with the 15 minutes of the day. Thank you. Frida, thank you so very much. I think we have had a great time enjoying the music. If we can proceed from there. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I see my boss here, Mr. Chair. I'm already in the meeting, though I'm in my rural area village, so I could not be managed to have this meeting on an office, but we can still continue the meeting, sir. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here and join my fellow Africa's leaders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable from Tana River, all the way from Kenya. Thank you.
My boss, Tama, I think we can now proceed on the meeting, and we can continue with the meeting. And I'm really grateful to be here in this meeting so that we may have a good conversation on how we can make Africa to rise. Let us proceed on the meeting. May God bless you all.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, Frida, we can hear you.
Yes, I'm here. I'm hearing you, madam. I'm hearing you.
Okay, so thank you, and thank you everyone for tuning in. This is a great platform, and today's meeting is going to give us more insights on Africa's regional integration. These are some of the topics that Africans don't these are some of the topics that Africans don't get to have conversations. And we have some professionals in this field that are going to help us unpack this. And as they are going to present, it's kind of a lecture series. You take your notebook and highlight all your questions so that we can learn from each other. And also they are not experts, and we are just going to have a conversation around Africa's developmental agenda. Everyone is welcome to contribute and ask a question. And at the end of the day, we are going to have knowledge about the continent that we are living in. First, I'm going to introduce the speakers, and we are going to dive right into it. We have first on the list, I will have to introduce them first before the first speaker start. We have a very young and vibrant man from the great Zimbabwe, Givemo Chiwanza. He is a regional integration and a finance professional. He acquired unique skills in communication, elegant leadership, project management, trade finance, and business development by working on multiple projects throughout the continent. And recently, he helped a Pan-African multilateral financial institution in launching multi-million-dollar project in Africa in the energy and transport sector. So Chiwanja is going to give us the historical aspect of Africa from where we came from the OAU and the AU coming into place. So we want to know from today why the AU also doesn't have really much influence on African member states in terms of dictating what should be done. You know, these are some of the things we should be expecting. Chiwanza. Second in the list, we have Mohammed Al-Lobi. He hails from North Africa, from the land of the pharaohs. Mohammed is a political advisor and hello, can you please mute? Mohammed is from Egypt. He's a political advisor for ALSC Group. It's a company in Dubai. He's also a mastered in governance and regional integration. He holds also a diploma in politics and law, and as well a bachelor degree in political science. So Mohammed is going to continue from where Chiwanza will end. He's going to continue explaining Africa's regional integration in terms of the regional economic communities. We want to know, why do we hear groups such as SADC, ECOWAS, IGAD, and so forth? We want to know what is this, because some of us do not know. And we have a very vibrant lady in the speakers. She's from one of the most interesting countries in Africa, Rwanda, Marlene Mutimawase. She's a feminist and a journalist and the AU Youth Ambassador under the African Union Youth Volunteer Corps program. She's an alumni for that. She holds a bachelor's degree in social work, in protection sector, in refugee camp, and she is passionate about women and youth inclusion. Currently, the African Union launched the AU Bingwa program, and that's why she is currently in Tanzania for that program for the East Africans. We can't wait to hear what they are going to tell us. Without wasting much time, I'm going to give the chance to the first speaker, Master Chiwanja. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Frida. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, we are hearing you clearly.
I would like to express my gratitude to the Great Minds Empire Africa Foundation team, or the Africa Center for Youth Development, Education and Advocacy Initiative, for this pertinent subject on the continent, which is understanding Africa as regional integration, the past, present, and future of OAU, AU, REX, and recently Africa Continental Free Trade Area. So this is an exciting subject and would like to hear more in it. If you permit me, let me quickly share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see it very clear.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it is seen.
Okay, so as Frida highlighted, I'm going to talk about more of the historical aspect of the Organization of African Unity and the African Union, and my colleagues will take up from there, and we proceed as such. Now, we'll talk about the background and motivations behind the institutions that we have currently in the continent and the current status. So the process of decolonization in Africa that commenced in the 1950s witnessed the birth of many new states, as we know them now, and it was inspired in part by the philosophy of Pan-Africanism. The states of Africa, they sought to preserve and consolidate their independence and pursue the ideals of African unity. So this inspiration was the culmination of several diverse and far-reaching historical currents and political trends that took place in the continent and also abroad. So on the African continent at the time, we had several prominent intellectuals and heads of states, such as Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Julius Nyerere of Kenya, Sekou Toure of Guinea, Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia. So they took up the cause of advancing Pan-Africanism and the Pan-African ideal. So at the time, there were several congresses that were held advocating for the complete independence of the African continent and total rejection of colonialism and exploitation in its form. So in other words, the Organization of African Unity, the basis for its creation was to decolonize what was decolonization and African unity. So they also voiced the importance of economic regeneration and to replace colonial economies geared towards primary resource extraction and exploitation. So, so they had this vision, but despite this shared vision, they had differing ideological commitments and diverging opinions regarding how they strategize this concept and how they should structure it at continental level. So these differing ideologies led to divided focus when it comes to regional integration of the continent and the pursuit of unity. So the division led to mainly three ideological blocks on the continent, which are split between the Casablanca group, the Monrovia group, and the Brazzaville group. And the Casablanca was mainly led by Kwame Nkrumah, and they advocated for immediate integration per se. So they wanted radical and full continental integration of the continent. On the other hand, the Monrovia group, which was led by Haile Selassie, proposed moderate. Okay, so the Monrovia group, they proposed a moderate approach to the unification to be undertaken in incremental steps, that is progressively, in other words. Now we had another group which was called the Brazzaville group, which consisted of Francophone countries led by Senegal and le Côte d'Ivoire. So these remained tied to mainly to the interest of France. So amongst these three, the Monrovia group or the Monrovia view prevailed. So this led now to the formation of the OAU in 1963, where 32 countries met, and from various countries they met in Addis Ababa. They intending to form this continental Pan-Africanism base, which, as I mentioned earlier, was a product of a watered-down compromise between these competing ideological blocs. So the AU was thus founded with the intention that the organization would proceed incrementally with unification until the eventual goal of a united African states is realized. So that was the what was behind the mind of the delegates when they were signing these agreements. So, as I mentioned, progressive unification. So the legal instruments that governed the OAU included the OAU Charter initially, which was signed in 1963. But from 1994 onwards, also the Abuja Treaty was incorporated therein. So there were various, when it comes to the structure of the OAU, there were various decision-making organs. Notably, we have the Assembly of the Head of States, and this was the organization's supreme organ, which was the executive body. They met once a year. They were the ones which made important decisions. You also had the Council of Ministers, which was comprised of government ministers, usually foreign ministers. So these typically met biannually and in special sessions. They were subordinate to the Assembly, and they were the ones responsible for preparing the Assembly's agenda. So you also had the General Secretariat. You also had the Commission of Mediation, Conciliation, and Arbitration. You had the African Commission on Human People's Rights. You had the African Court on Human and People's Rights, the Mechanism for Conflict Prevention, Management, and Resolution. So this was the structure, and the organization was structured in such a way. So from what we can see, eventually, as we all know, the OAU was eventually dissolved in 2002, but this did not just happen overnight. There were some circumstances that led to this decision being taken. So these are some of the aims of the OAU: unity and solidarity of African states, defense of their sovereignty, territorial integrity and independence, colonialism in Africa, non-interference in the internal affairs of states. We need to keep that in mind, because it's quite an interesting clause in the charter. The peaceful settlement of disputes, and they also later on expanded their activities and their scope, trying to incorporate and to try to adapt to the dynamic world they were currently in. So what you can see as the achievements and what led to the dissolution of the OAU. I'll start with some of the achievements that they achieved, that they managed to attain over the period. Mainly, their main goal was decolonization, and you can see that one of their significant achievement was the assistance to liberalize the continent, that is to form and to assist liberation movements, to which the organization afforded associate member and observer status. So Article 2 of the OAU Charter stated that they wanted to eradicate all forms of colonialism from Africa, as I stated when I started the presentation. So it was the organization's most successful venture, restoring territorial integrity to many formerly colonized states. Now, the Organization of African Unity also provided a foundation for the creation of regional economic communities that we have today. So they encourage the development of these communities and eventually attempts to create a continental body for economic development. It's led to the establishment of the African Economic Commission through a treaty signed in Abuja, as I said, Nigeria in 1991. So the Abuja Treaty contained a blueprint or a foundation for full continental economic integration, which was to be achieved in 34 years, that is by 2018, 2019. The mark was a bit, they were a bit amiss in that. But you can see that it laid a foundation to what we have today, which is one of my colleagues will talk about, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. When it comes to social achievements, we can see that the OAU also facilitated in the unification of trade unions by establishing the Organization of African Trade Union, promoting youth organizations to further the leadership potential on the continent. They attempted to deal more concretely with the issue of refugees by adopting the 1969 African Convention of Refugees and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. So these are some of the notable things that the institution did. So the reason for its dissolution mainly was trying to address the challenges of a changing world. So it had become evident, I think, in the early 1979s that they need to amend the charter to streamline the organization to gear it more accurately for the challenges of a changing world. So this resulted in a growing realization that the need for greater efficiency and effectiveness of the organization required urgent action, and the need to integrate the political activities of the institution with the economic and developmental issues as articulated in the Abuja Treaty. So the charter and the Abuja Treaty, they needed to be merged in other words. Another key issue was the issue of peace, security, and stability in the continent. Some have noted that the OAU Charter's principle of non-interference that I mentioned earlier in the internal affairs of member states was one of the reasons why the organization was reluctant to resolve disputes. This significant Hello. Oh. Can you hear me?
Yes, Tawanda, you are
Yes,
mic.
I can hear you.
We can hear you. We can hear you, sir. Continue.
Okay. I had a bit of a challenge with my network, I suppose. Okay, so we continue nonetheless. So I was now on the issue of peace, security, and stability in the continent. So they realized that this was presenting a challenge. So it was difficult to defend when you have this non-interference in place. So this significant challenge for the OAU was its deference to state sovereignty. We have to understand also, if you were in their shoes, our countries, they were new states, they were newborn states. They had just come from they've just been they were fighting colonialism, so the issue of sovereignty was quite sensitive, and they needed to safeguard it with all that they can. So the OAU also promoted this issue of state sovereignty, and it affected the organization's efficacy in preventing and stemming conflict in its member states. So this important respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity came at a cost. So there were emerging dictatorships, coups, counter coups, exacerbated political instability. So the situation was also worsened by persistent financial difficulties that effectively prevented it from tackling these conflicts in Africa. So at the leaders summit on the 10th anniversary of the OAU, Emperor Haile Selassie in 1973 proposed the creation of a permanent African peacekeeping force. So peacekeeping force, however, it never materialized, but there were some
Sir, there is a network internet interruption on your side. Please.
Well, apologies for that. I'm having problems with my network. Seems to be glitching. Let me continue. Okay, so this leads us to the African Union. So an extraordinary summit was held in Libya in 1999, and the Constitutive Act of the African Union was adopted in Togo, Lomé, in 2000. So the African Union has 55 member states to date, and the goal is to address the challenges that the continent is facing. So after this battle of independence was won, so attention was turned to Africa's economic over-reliance on its former colonial powers. So they were dependent on them, and one can argue that some of them are still dependent up to date. So it was perceived as the root cause of the continent's poverty. So the primary goal of the African Union is to drive the integration and development process with its union members, regional communities, and African citizens. One of the philosophical bases of cooperation under the framework of the AU was that all member states had to observe specific fundamental values and standards, including respect of human rights, democratic governance, and the condemnation of unconstitutional changes of government. So a member state who fails to comply or to observe these standards could be subject to political and economic sanctions. So it's, from my point of view, it came from an angle with a firmer and more assertive approach. When it comes to peacekeeping efforts, the AU's Peace and Security Council superseded the Organization of African Unit mechanism for conflict prevention, management, and resolution. So it was established in May 2004, following the entry into force of the protocol that was signed of the PSC. So this Peace Security Council had 3 organs, and the collective organs is known as the African Peace and Security Architecture. So the AU also adopted the United Nations principle of responsibility to protect, which has gradually been introduced into the African level. So while the OAU had no legal power to get involved in internal conflicts of on the continent, and was largely inactive on this front, as we discussed in detail, the African Union has been granted the right to intervene in a member state in respect of war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity. So those provisions contained in the AU Constitutive Act has been termed non-difference, in opposite to non-interference, and may be viewed as the African equivalent of the UN's principle of responsibility to protect. So we also have the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which was adopted in 1981 and entered into force 5 years later. Now the AU, all of the AU member states have now ratified it. And the Charter affirms international human rights law and international law more generally as relevant sources within the regional system, and includes specific regional standards of civil, political rights, as well as economic, social, and cultural rights. Most interestingly, this architecture that we mentioned, the African Peace and Security Architecture, is not the only AU mechanism for preventing and managing conflict on the continent. In 2001, the OAU announced the creation of the new Partnership for Development, that is NEPAD, which was endorsed by the AU Summit in 2002. The aim is to create a new framework for Africa's interaction with the world, basically. So under NEPAD, African states, they seek to improve their political, economic, governance, peace, and security in return for increased development assistance from and trading opportunities with industrialized nations. And these industrialized nations of the G8 responded to the creation of NEPAD by adopting the Africa Action Plan in 2002. So NEPAD seems like it holds a tremendous promise for sustained peace and security in the continent by articulating a strong stance on domestic governance issues at the root of instability and insecurity in the continent. Now, NEPAD instituted an African peer review mechanism, which is the principal instrument for measuring African states' progress under NEPAD. So what it does is a system whereby African states monitor each other's progress towards the program's development goals, that is NEPAD goals. Now, what we can say about the African Union as of now, we can say it has some achievements, and also it has its own shortcomings as we see it. Notably, the most notable ones is the AfCFTA, that is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which was launched in 2020. It had been in development for 2 years, but from what I see, all the efforts, the regional integration efforts that had been made from the Abuja Treaty, they culminate into this wide continental free trade area. So according to the World Bank, for example, the establishment of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area will create the largest free trade area in the world. So it means to date, Africa has the largest free trade area in the world. It connects 1.3 billion people. So the success of this free trade area could potentially lift 30 million people out of extreme poverty. So it's of extreme importance that it can totally revolutionize the way we do business, our economic, social, and political spheres in the continent. So it's the subject in the continent, and I'll encourage you to know about it. Now we also have AVAT. AVAT is it's a more recent development, which stands for Africa Vaccination Acquisition Task Team, which was established primarily in 2020. Primarily, the goal was to secure COVID-19 vaccines to to achieve continental herd immunity by 2022. So to date, the African Union has secured about 1 billion doses of the vaccine through AfCFT efforts, which will be distributed among member states in the AU. So you can see this is an important initiative in the continent. And as mentioned earlier, we have NEPAD. So through the new partnership for development, the African Union has been able to create a better relationship between the world's industrialized nations and Africa. So there is increased cooperation. And the AU has also successfully established its constitutional organ, such as the African Union Parliament and the African Court of Justice. However, resources is still a problem in the continent. It renders it inadequate in achieving its prospective objectives and into executing them. The member states, sometimes they find it difficult to pay their membership dues regularly. So this is also a spillover from the OAU. For example, by the time the AU was established, member states owed the former OAU approximately $50 million in unpaid dues by member states. So this financial problem slows down the union's activities and makes it challenging to fund conflict prevention efforts and other issues in the continent. Now, the other issues that we have is lack of political will from our leaders, and another issue it's on the charter is that the organization's legal framework does not articulate circumstances requiring conflict resolution or mitigation response. So this creates a gray area in the charter whereby we don't know when we're supposed to intervene to prevent conflict or to mitigate response. So it's a bit of a gray area there in the charter, which hopefully will be resolved. So with that, I end my presentation here, and I'll pass on to my colleagues. Thank you.
Wow, that was a great one, Chiwanza. Thank you so much for this very interesting presentation. Now we are going to hear from Mohammed since now the leaders came up with institutions such as the OAU and the African Union, as we have seen the transition and the NEPAD came through, we still have the NEPAD, and the APRM is running throughout the continent to measure governance, and a lot of developmental related type of policies and transitions have been made. We want now to hear from the regional economic community's point of view as to how does this have to do with us knowing as the next generation. Mohammed, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Frida. I'm Mohammed Ruby, political advisor from Egypt. And I'm going to talk about the RICS, the regional economies, communities in Africa. And just allow me to present my slide. Is it clear to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so from African Union to RICS, we can say from the brain to the other organs, because RICS or the regional economic communities in Africa are not working separately or individually. They are working under the umbrella of the brain, the African Union. And in the beginning, we have to define RICS. What is RICS? Actually, RICS is the regional economic communities. RICS are regional groupings of African states. The RICS have developed individually and have different rules and structures. RIGs are we have 8 communities in Africa, and generally the purpose of RIGs is to facilitate regional economic integration between members of the individual regions and through the wider African Economic Community, which was established under the Abuja Treaty 1991. So what is Abuja Treaty? Abuja Treaty, it's the treaty establishing the African Economic Community, was adopted on 3 June 1991 and entered into force on 12 May 1994. The treaty has been signed by most of member states of the Organization of African Unity in that time. And in Article 4 in the treaty, there were the objectives, and one of the objectives of the community shall be to promote economic, social, and cultural development and the integration of African economies in order to increase self-reliance and promote an indigenous and self-sustained development. So this is Abuja Treaty. So the role of RIGs, if we start talking about the role of RIGs, we have to come from the old regionalism to the new regionalism. And by the old regionalism, I mean that the role of RIGs has developed and evolved over the decades since the independence, as it was initially intended to focus on the role of economic aspects during the decades extending from the 60s until the end of 80s of the 20th century. This is the old regionalism. By the new regionalism, we mean that the RIGs has a new role, or has developed its role into political rules, security and military rules. All of this were added to their rules since the beginning, the 90s of 20th century. And we can see the role of RIGs in interfering into some political events like the Sudan coup, the last Sudan coup, and the last Sudan coup, and I think DRC. So the integration between AU and RIGs, as I have said, the AU and RIGs, they are not working individually, but the RIGs are working under the umbrella of the African Union. So how is it happening? It's happening through, number one, the Constitutive Act of African Union. In the Constitutive Act of African Union, in Article 3, there are the objectives. One of the objectives of the Union shall be to coordinate, harmonize the policies between the existing and future regional economic communities for the gradual attainment of the objectives of the Union. Number two, protocol on relation between African Union and RIGs. The protocol was established on 27 June 2008 in Addis Ababa. This protocol entered into force on November 10, 2021, after it was signed by the chairperson of the African Union Commission and the chief executive of 3 RIGs. Chapter 1 in the protocol, Article 3. In the objectives, we can see one of the objectives was formalize and promote closer coordination among the RIGs and between them and the Union through the cooperation and harmonization of their policies, measures, programs, and activities in all fields and sectors. Number 3, the MOU, or the Memorandum of Understanding on cooperation in the area of peace and security between the African Union and the RIGs. And by the Memorandum of Understanding, we mean that there was a Memorandum of Understanding was signed in 2008 by AU and RIGs and the coordinating mechanism of regional standby brigades of Eastern Africa and Northern Africa. We said that we have 8 RIGs. We're admitted by the African Union. We have the Arab Maghreb Union. We have common market for Eastern and Southern Africa. We have community of Sahel Sahara state, East African community, economic community of Central African states, economic community of West African states, Intergovernmental Authority on Development IGAD, Southern Africa Development Community. In addition to, we have the Eastern African Standby Force Coordination Mechanism, and we have the North African Regional Capability. Both have both of the organs, both of the institutions have offices at the AU. We will start from the Arab Maghreb Union. The Arab Maghreb Union in Morocco, the headquarters in Morocco was established under the Marrakesh Treaty of 1989 with the primary purposes of strengthening ties between the 5 member states. By the 5 member states I mean Algeria, Libya, Mauritania, Morocco, and Tunisia. And since it was established, it was only it had only one meeting in 1994. Since then, they did not meet at all. This is the map for the Arab Maghreb Union. As we can see, it's in the northern of Africa, most of the northern African states. Second, we have the common market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, one of the largest communities in Africa. It's the headquarters in Zambia, and its purpose was COMESA was established in 1993 by the COMESA Treaty, which has the primary purpose of creating a free trade region. Article 3 of the treaty provides that the aim and objectives of COMESA are to attain sustainable growth and development of member states, promote joint development in all fields of economic activity. The evolution of COMESA. Regional trade integration was first proposed in 1978 by Lusaka Declaration of Intent and Commitment to the establishment of a preferential trade area for Eastern and Southern Africa, which entered into force in 1982. The common market envisaged in the PTA was created in 1993 under the COMESA Treaty. So this is the map for COMESA. We can see how it's places in Africa, its states in Africa. The structure of COMESA. COMESA is accountable to the heads of states and government of its member states. Structure include the Council of Ministers responsible for policy making. We have 12 technical committees and subsidiary advisory bodies. Overall coordination is managed by COMESA Secretariat. We have so many institutes or so many organs related to COMESA, such as Clearing House in Harare, Zimbabwe, Association of Commercial Banks in Zimbabwe as well, Leather and Leather Product Institute in Addis Ababa, Reinsurance Company in Nairobi, African Trade Insurance Agency, Malawi Regional Investment Agency in Cairo, Monetary Institute in Nairobi, Federation of Women in Business in Malawi as well, Alliance for Commodity Trade in Eastern and Southern Africa in Zambia, Business Council in Lusaka. In addition to a Court of Justice was established under the treaty to deal with issues related to COMESA, only the issues which is related to COMESA. And the court became operational in 1998. The meetings for the members, COMESA heads of state and government meet at an annual summit to make policy decision and elect representatives, and they might have some other meeting in extraordinary events. The members, we have 19 members. We have Burundi, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Uganda. We have also Comoros, DRC, Swatini, Sudan, Seychelles, Rwanda, Mauritius, Malawi, Madagascar, Libya, Kenya, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Egypt, and Djibouti. 3, we have the community of Sahel Sahara states, SINSAD, Algeria. It's headquartered in Algeria. The purpose of SINSAD is the community of SINSAD was formed in 1998 with the primary objective of promoting the economic, cultural, political, and social integration of its member states. Article 1 of the treaty establishing the community provide that the aims and objectives of SINSAD are to establish a comprehensive economic union with a particular focus in the agricultural, industrial, social, cultural, and energy fields. As well, promote measures to coordinate educational system, promote cooperation in culture, scientific, and technical fields. And here we have the map for the community. The structure of SINSAD is governed by its conference of heads of states and government. The organization's structure include executive council, which meets at ministerial level to implement conference decisions. A special ministerial council, which deal with thematic issues. General Secretariat, which is the community's executive body. Economic, Social, and Culture Council, which follow Executive Council directives. And we have finally Sahel and Sahara Investment and Trade Bank. The meetings, the Conference of Head of State and Government meets once a year in ordinary sessions. Members, we have 29 members. It's one of the largest communities as well. We have Benin, Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, Central Africa Republic, Chad, Comor. We have Cote d'Ivoire, Djibouti, Egypt, Gambia, Eritrea, Ghana, Kenya, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Libya, Mali, Mauritius, Morocco, Nigeria, Senegal, and other member states. I think now we are in number 4, East African Community. And I consider East African Community as one of the activist communities in terms of economic purposes, and we will see their achievements later. The purpose of East African Community was, it was initiated in 1999 as the regional intergovernmental organization of the 5 East African countries, and it extended. Now it has 8 or 6 East African countries. It was established to develop policies and programs aimed at widening and deepening cooperation among the partner states in political, economic, social, and cultural fields, research and technology, defense, security, and legal and judicial affairs for their mutual benefit. The East African Community countries established a custom union in 2005. And a common market in 2010. East African Community aims to create a monetary union and the next step in integration and ultimately become a political federation of East African states. Here is the East African states on the map. The meetings, the summit meet at least once a year. The office of the chairperson is held for 1 year in rotation among the partner states, and the summit discusses business submitted to it by the council, which meets twice a year, and any other matter that might bearing on the AAC, I mean the extraordinary events. The members, they are 7, sorry, they are not 6, 7. We have Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, and recently we have the Republic of South Sudan and DRC. And now we'll talk about Economic Community of Central African States, ECAS, and the headquarters in Gabon. Purpose of ECAS was formed in 1983 by the treaty establishing the Economic Community of Central African States, and it had the primary objective of promoting member states' economic and social development and improving people's living conditions. The structure of ECAS is governed by the Conference of Heads of State and Government, which is the supreme organ. Its structure also include a Council of Ministers, which oversees policy implementation. And we have General Secretariat, Court of Justice, Technical Specialized Committees, Consultative Commission. And here is the ECAS and the map. The meetings, the council meet twice a year in ordinary session. The members, we have 11 members. Angola, Burundi, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Congo, DRC, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Cameroon, and Sao Tome and Principe. It's a Portuguese name, I think. Now we will talk about ECOWAS. And ECOWAS, it's quarter in Nigeria. It's the Economic Community of West African States. ECOWAS was established by the ECOWAS Treaty in May 1975 with the primary objective of promoting economic integration in all fields of economic activity, particularly industry, transport, telecommunication, energy, agriculture, natural resources, commerce, monetary and financial questions, social and cultural matters. The structure of ECOWAS is governed by its authority of heads of states and government. The authority chairperson is usually elected for a one-year term. ECOWAS structure include Council of Ministers, Commission, the Secretariat, which carries out all executive functions. And here is we have ECOWAS. One of the organs of ECOWAS also is Community Parliament, Economic and Social Council, Community Court of Justice, Fund for Cooperation. We have 6 specialized technical commissions, and finally we have Bank for Infrastructure and Development. The meetings, the authority of heads of states and government meets at least once a year, and it may also meet in extraordinary sessions. And we have 15 members. We have Benin, Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, and other member states. I think number 7 or number 8. I think number 7, number 8 we have IGAD. IGAD is Intergovernmental Authority on Development. It's quarter in Djibouti. The purpose of IGAD is it was established in 1996 to represent the interests of states in the Eastern African region under Article 7 of the agreement establishing IGAD. Its aims and objectives include promoting joint development strategies, harmonizing member states' policies, achieving regional peace and stability in the sub-region, and mobilizing resources for the implementation of programs within the framework of sub-regional cooperation. And actually, IGAD when it was established for the drought in this region, and to say in terms of agriculture, in terms of droughts, and to save those states which not going against East African community. But as we said, through the decades, it was developed. Its objectives was developed through the decades. It's the IGAD members. We have 8 members. We have Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia. We have Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan, and Uganda. And here is IGAD in East Africa. Finally, we have Southern African Development Community, SADC. It's a quarter in Can you hear me?
Yes, Mohammed, you can continue.
Yes, I'm sorry.
We are hearing you clearly. I'm hearing you clearly, sir.
Thank you, thank you. Let me share the screen once again. So now we will talk about the last community, which is SADC, and its quarter in Botswana. And SADC was formed on 17 August 1992 under the Article 4 of the treaty establishing SADC as amended in 2001. Its objectives include promoting sustainable and equitable economic growth and development. The summit meets at least once a year. We have 16 members of the south of the continent. We have Angola, Botswana, DRC, Lesotho, Madagascar, Comoros, Malawi, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, Seychelles, South Africa, Swatini, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. So here is the map for the community. And finally, we have another regional, we cannot say community, it's such a bodies related to the African Union. And as I have said in the beginning, their offices in the African Union, and it was admitted by the African Union, sorry, such as International Conference on the Great Lake Region and its ICGLR, and its purpose, the International Conference on the Great Lake Region, ICGLR, is an intergovernmental organization of the countries in the region. It was established in 2003 to address the regional dimension to conflicts affecting the Great Lake and give momentum to efforts to promote sustainable peace and development. The African Union is an ICGLR former partner. The AU Commission provides technical, diplomatic, and financial support to the ICGLR. It also works in cooperation with the ICGLR in the framework of its activities. I mean the African Union. Its member, we have 12 members. We have Angola, Burundi, Central African Republic, Congo. We have DRC, Kenya, Rwanda, South Sudan, Uganda, Tanzania, and Zambia. Thank you. Now I will give the chance to my colleague to talk about the free trade area in Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. You have unpacked the deep aspect of regional economic communities, and as at this point we are able to have a clear picture of what was presented earlier from the OAU, how it came into place and the transition that was made. And I'm sure that everyone was so interested to hear the non-interference aspect of the African Union and the non-interference aspect of the OAU and how the African Union resolution came into place. And then now we have the continuation of African unity, whereby leaders that are in power are just trying to, to lead the way. So we are able now to understand at the continental level what has happened, and with the regional economic communities, through Mohammed's presentation, we are able to understand how they came into place, where are they located, and what were their initial reasons of establishment. Not all of them were established for economical reasons or to strengthen the political agendas. They all had different reasons of establishments, as Mohammed presented. And now this is going to be like the future aspect of Africa's developmental agenda, where we are going to listen from Marlene Mutima Awase. She's from Rwanda. she's going to tell us more on the future, because the AfCFTA is also another strategic plan that is building, that was implemented by African leaders that are in power, just for Africans to be able to unite again, and this time around in trade. Machlen, over to you.
Thank you, Frida. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'm really happy to share the knowledge. And I really believe young African really need this so that we can share from one another and we just benefit and like contributing to the development of our continent. The leaders used to say that we are future leaders, but if we are not the present and if we are not now leading, it means the future never belongs to us. So it's up to us to define really what we want for our Africa, because other people will come and leave, but we're gonna stay. So thank you to my previous speakers who just take us through how African Union has developed and now went to the stage of creating a free trade area. What is that and what is for, and why even is now all like it's African Union is urging all member states to join for this free trade area, and how we're gonna go there. All Tawanda has touched about political will. If there is no political will, we wouldn't even create this free trade area, and it is the biggest one in the world. Like in terms of even participating member state, in case of population, it's really huge. If it's something that Africans are really investing in, we will have the Africa we want, and we will reach the agenda of 2063 that African Union is really holding. So this African free continental free trade area, it's mainly aimed as creating one African market, and yeah, to make Africa like united in terms of economics, and like put the strength together so that we can like promote our products. And you know how trade is really important key when we talked about economy. So it's the largest free trade area, bringing together 55 countries of African Union and all 8 regional economic groups, as Mohamed stated. And I know that you will know what we'll be talking about when we talk about LEX. And it's a flagship for AU Agenda 2063. It's among the pillars. And this African Free Continental Free Trade Area was launched in 12th extraordinary session of the AU Assembly in Niger in 2019. So it has been some years and some progress has been made, even though some countries are still lagging behind. So the Secretariat of FCTA is in Accra, Ghana. So what you can say that FCTA now, it has 45 members. So they have signed it, even though some of them never ratified the agreement, but now 45 members AU states have agreed to this agreement as of June 2022, and it will cater 30 million people. So, and these 30 million people will potentially be lifted from extreme poverty, which is really a challenge to our continent. So, and again, 45 have deposited their instrument of ratification. So this means that we have 45 members of AU signed the agreement of free trade area, but only 45 have been ratified this agreement. So we really need more 10 countries who are behind to sign these agreements. And there is an income that is expected to be brought by these Continental Free Trade Area. And Continental Free Trade Area has two phases because they didn't want to go like rushing to the destination, and they put like this free trade area into two phases. And the phase one was is really focusing on trading goods, trading services, dispute settlement mechanism. And the phase two, which we are like having in the future, will mainly focus on investment, intellectual property rights, competition policy, digital trade, and women and youth. So this is also the FCTA we have now, and we really want to have it like clear when all the countries will be ratifying, and we will be having more participating country members. So it has operational instruments, 5 operational instruments, which is Africa. They are the FCTA ebook, e-tariff book, which is including how the products in a free trade area will be taxed, and how some taxes will be exempted from product to each other, policy of region, rule of origin, so that this free trade area will going well. And they have also the non-tariff barriers, the Pan-African payment and settlement system, which has also been active. I'm seeing Ghana and Nigeria have been also working together so that they can have some agreements. This will include how the payment among the participants of free trade area, which will reduce the cost of exchange, commission, and it will require like these smooth payments between people who are trading among this area. There is also AfCFT adjustment fund. It is expected to be having 10 billion USD for this FCTA to be stable. But now AfreximBank managed to secure 1 billion for now, which is also a great achievement, because this FCTA is like partnering mostly with AfreximBank. There is also the automotive fund, where Africa want to be like self-sustained when it comes to automotive manufacturing and supplying chain. So those are the operational instruments for AfCFTA. And as of now, we have 8 countries who started like this FCTA with 96 products. It's not like a small thing, because we came very far, and we know how Africa is being challenged by the pressure from the Western country and everything. But when we see some countries take the initiative to be proactive into this, it's really a good thing. And I'm proud that East Africa is playing is playing a lot into this. Also, the products that have been like now got some certificates, non-tariff barriers, which are exempted from some tariff, and are enjoying duty-free and quota-free trading among the partners countries. So that is AfCFTA. What I can say is not like FCTA came to replace AU or other regional economic group. This is a complement, and it is really tackling to the economic aspect of development, and it will like strengthen African Union through their agenda 2063 of creating the Africa we want, like leveraging people like vulnerable people and most of African population who are in extreme poverty. So I wish I wish this would be understood well by young people, because SMEs, like small medium enterprises, are really the key actors in this in this sector, and if they don't join, and if they are not aware of what is going on, they will never benefit from this free trade area, while it is designed for them. It's designed for our small business, young people to participate, women also to be on the table. And we know that on how women are really key players when it comes to these informal traders or those close border informal traders. So if they're not aware of what is going on, it means like they won't be benefiting from this AfCFTA, and it is really expected to bring more opportunities for business owners, not only to the big one, but also to the small business that we really have. So this is also what I was planning to share, and I know that we will get more insight from like the participants and all the people who attended this session. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Marlene, for that insightful presentation and very so short and sweet. So now we have a complete picture of what we wanted to achieve in this webinar, whereby we had the historical aspect of Africa's integration, from the founding fathers, and then from the regional economic communities that were trying to come up with different reasons to unite African member states. And then now we have the future development upon us, of which the essence of this webinar is to contribute to the efforts of those that are leading. The leaders in power are trying by all means to really negotiate and come up with much, but we on the grassroots, if we are not taking up chances to educate ourselves or to be aware of what is happening and to follow the updates and see how we should come in from all aspects, from all our respective levels, either professionals or SMEs, informal or formal, anyone is needed in this to just pull efforts together towards the Africa we want. It's on that background that this webinar was found to be more needed in the society, in the African society. Now we are moving to questions, and we are also going to allow anyone to share, and this is going to be a conversation. We are not experts here, and let's feel free to just discuss among us, because these are the conversations we should be having as Africans. If you have questions, you can just speak, unmute and ask, but specify to which person you are asking. Either you are asking to which speaker first, and then we will have a general conversation later on, anyone that wants to add, or you can type if you don't want to talk.
Hello, can I ask?
Yes, Jimmy.
Okay, I'm Jimmy Mhano. I come from Rwanda, but right now I'm in Germany. And thank you very much for this occasion. And I thank just very much for the speakers and everyone just who is attending. And I would like to ask, especially they have talked about the some RECs and even this the market area for just Africa, which is a good idea. Then my question, it's how just we reach that when we still have like some African countries, some more neighbors country, they still just have some conflicts because like when we want just to cooperate economically, but still some countries, neighbors, they can't even cooperate and work together. So that's the question. And another question, it's I see that in Africa, some countries just they have that spirit to build the borders instead of building the bridge. So because like the bridge just to link the two countries, like many countries, but we still have that to build the borders, like to separate ourselves. So then my question is like, when we have like such good initiatives just to work together and to cooperate, but we still just create all those barriers, which just will never just enable us just to reach our purpose. So any speaker or just whoever just can maybe share with us, like can just tell me something. And thank you very much.
I think this is refers to me, right? He's asking about the obstacles which is facing the African economic unity. I'm speaking, Frida. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You can hear me, Jimmy?
Yeah, yes.
So you have touched a very sensitive point, which is the conflicts and the conflicts is the main obstacle against any economic integration. And let me tell you something. Unlike the other continents, Africa having a very various and different economies. You will find some giant economies like Nigeria, like South Africa, like Egypt, and other are very, very weak economies, if we can consider them as this. We can also move to some failed states if we can speak politically. So this is a real challenge against any economic integration. But let us start from the conflicts. In the African Union, we have what we say ASF, the African Standby Forces, and the African Standby Forces are real forces with the ability to interfere in any conflict. And I mean by interfere, hard interfere or soft interfere. First of all, it's a hard interfere by weapons. We have the East African standby forces. We have the Northern, and all of these organs were made just to. It was from the African Union, a vision from the African Union, because they know very well that the main challenge for any economic integration is the conflicts. So those were forces, armed forces from the African Union. Each region has its force. Each force has the ability to interfere in any conflict. But so far, we cannot say that we have a real interfering from those forces due to the countries themselves. They cannot allow that. They cannot allow the African Union to interfere so far. But as long as we have institution, but they still weak institution, that's a point. That's a step into the achieving the peace in Africa. Yes, we have institution. Yes, we have weak institution, but at least we have institution. This is number one. Number two, the communities, the rigs were made in Africa because Africa having, as I have said, a very various economy between the countries. That's why you will find now in East Africa, they are doing very well in terms of economic integration, but in North Africa, they still far away from achieving the economic integration. In East African community, now we have the PTA, the Preferential Trade Area. We have custom union. The custom union means that I can take something from Rwanda, I transfer it to DRC with one custom union. It means one policy for all the goods to be transferred from a country to another country inside the region. Yes, in another region we don't have this, but let us divide Africa into 5 regions, and let us say that there are some regions are doing very well in terms of economic integration, and others are still away from that. So what I can say is we have the institutions, and this is a good step into integration. We still have some weak institution, but we have also some strong institution. We have conflicts, yes, we have conflicts, but we have also the institution which is able and which is allowed to face those conflicts. But as my mate Katawanda said, that the political will, we still missing this, the political will into the integration. I feel like I have taken too much, but I wanted to clarify the point to you.
Yes, Mohammed, and I also want to add that the reason why we are talking about institutional aspect of Africa integration is to understand how the process go or how everything goes. For example, like we heard that the OAU didn't have the clause to interfere in member states' affairs, but the African Union resolution, when it came into place, it had that clause, but it cannot just be someone from the AU to come straight to a certain nation and say do this or this. No, it has to pass through various processes. Like first they have to pass through the REC, like maybe if there is a conflict in Namibia or if there is something that is wrong in Namibia, they have to pass through the SADC organs or in charge of that, and then the SADC now have to convey that to the national level. They have to pass maybe through the parliament or maybe through the cabinet or maybe through what. This whole bureaucracy is what is coupled with the questions that you asked. So they are doing that, but they are passing through those channels. And as Mohammed said, I hope we answered Jimmy, but yeah. The next person, Didier.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me very well.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so
Didier, you are on mute.
oh, I'm sorry. So I was saying I am Didier from a conflictual country that you know very well, DRC. And on this issue of conflict, I think Africa should pay attention to the issue of conflict in Central Africa, because I think this doesn't really come from Africa, but I think it's coming from outside. And imagine why conflict only in the middle of Africa, in the center. Imagine. So the issue, we see ECAS, the Economic Community of Central African States, as one of the weakest RECs. And I think it's related to that. If we try to see the RECs like SADC, they have one big economy. You can find also one big economy in East African Community, which is Kenya. There is Nigeria with ECOWAS, and there is Egypt with COMESA. But in ECAS, there is no strong economy. So I think Africa should pay attention to that question and try to pacify that region, because we cannot try to integrate Africa without integrating the center. So ECAS is the center of Africa, and in case I think from my experience, I'm from DRC. You can try to DRC lacks infrastructures like roads and others. You can take a bus from South Africa to Zambia, and you can cross to Lubumbashi, which is a city in southern DRC. But from there, you are blocked. So you cannot go to the north. You can also come from Morocco to Cameroon, and you can go to Congo, Brazzaville, but you are unable to cross the Congo River to reach Kinshasa. So I think that issue should be so important when talking about regional integration in Africa. Thank you very much. That is my point.
Okay, can I add something there, Freedom? On
Yes,
the
please.
conversation, the question that was asked. Yeah, it's a pertinent question, and important points have been raised. Also, my contribution is to emphasize more on what the previous speaker emphasized on the importance of those strong economies, or of those hegemonies in different regional economic communities. In SADC, we have South Africa. In ECOWAS, we have Nigeria. North Africa, we have Egypt. So it's important that the Union tries to cooperate with those hegemonies in those regional economic blocks, because they are the ones who will be responsible in driving the integration agenda or the peace and security. We can see it on the integration of the European Union, for example, the role that was played by the then powerful economies, France and Germany, in integrating the European Union. So likewise, we can also use the same strategy in using the powerful states in the continent. In the case of Central Africa, I think Cameroon and Gabon can also be major players in driving the integration agenda. They are key, and the African Union can try also to cooperate with those strong economies in trying to influence their the member states into following the footsteps that is towards the integration agenda. Thank you.
May I speak? One question.
Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Onesimo from Rwanda. As I'm speaking, I'm in India now. I'm doing my PhD, specializing in finance. Let's first of all thank for those who initiated this meeting webinar. It is very good and for this opportunity, and let's work hand in hand as Africans, because it is this free trade area is the only tool which which will help Africa to overcome poverty. I'm very sorry to say this, because wherever you see African or Africa, you feel and they see as poverty. From any black person, even being from Africa itself, abroad, you are an issue, a problem. And the only contrast means we have in Africa 40% of natural resources, and particularly gold. And as you all know, gold is the wealth or richness for anything. You know, even these richest countries, their wealth is either evaluated or into quantity of dollars, or gold that they have in deposit or in gold. So we do have that others people are looking for. So the only obstacle, as one of our speakers has said, it is conflicts between countries. Otherwise, it was a good initiative to start this free trade area, but it is sometimes become topic or hypothetical, because putting in a place one tool that you are sure that is not going to work, it is really like playing like kids. But let's not be upset and keep working as hand in hand. If I joined late, I don't know if there is anybody from African Union or whoever can be participate easily in African Union Summit. That should be give this message to African Union leaders, that please stop conflicts between countries. We should live like friends and colleagues and brothers and sisters. And most importantly, we are all Africans, whether Arabs and Black Africans. We are friends, we are brothers. We are brothers. Sorry. Finally, though, Corona has brought in lockdown or closing of borders, but we are unclosing by ourselves, and we accept becoming tools of foreigners because see, few countries in Africa are manufacturing guns and so forth. But where do Africans get these things? From foreigners to protect others' interest on behalf or at the interest or disinterest of our brothers and sisters. Please keep on multiply this kind of meetings, and wherever you are, give these ideas to African leaders. Most of you are youth. You may be in youth leaders, and you are the future of the Africa. Please, stability. There is no countries which can have prosperity and development when it is not stable. Stability and peace is the first key. Then we can think other things further. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Your comments are well noted, and we are going to work on that wherever we find ourselves in those spaces. Let me move on to the chat. There's someone who asked a question and has been waiting for so long, but Lavinia Helena commented that it's really difficult to order things from our African countries, especially from the northern countries to south and vice versa. I hope this will create an open borders for us to be able to order from any country as long as I'm in Africa. Yes, I know she's referring to the AfCFTA, and it's also connected to the next question from Bertrand Rama. My question first is to the last speaker. Madam, what are the processes that SME will follow to embrace the opportunity for the second speaker, Mohammed, the cross-carpeting of the nations? Won't it affect recommendation from the Commission? Thirdly, the speaker is self-determinant among the AU treaty. Okay. For those that are raising hands, please just hold on. We are coming to you. Mahlen?
Yeah, thank you so much, Bertrand, for this question. What I can say is that what a small enterprise like a small and medium enterprise can do is like this awareness, know that the things are there, the treaty is there to support them, because this will broaden the market. And when the market is broadened, there will be a competition. And when there will be a competition, so we really need to work hard so that we can go to the market and we sell our things. The other thing is like there's various opportunities that have been put in place by a Flexim Bank. Is now partnering with some institution. There is one which is called GAIN, and there is another one which is called African Business Roundtable. They are just giving the webinars, training the SMEs and startup so that they can know how to keep their investments in this free trade area, and they're even equipping the knowledge about these non-tariff barriers, how they can be enjoying these duty-free and quota-free free markets. What I can say is all about being aware of what is going on, and also take place when people are really taking decisions on our behalf. It's not good. We really need to see those young people who own some small business to go on decision-making table, to be there and show those old people that they are around. They wouldn't have to decide for themselves, so that they can give their opinion and like speak out of what would facilitate them to do their business. This is how African Continental Free Trade Area is really giving us the space so that you can even enjoy these broader markets. Yeah, thank you.
In addition to that, I think also relevant to the previous questions that there is this, the UNECA, the Africa Economic Development Agency, something like that, EDEP, it's situated in Dakar. They, in coordination with the IOM, they offer training to policy makers, like the ones that are in immigration type of the staffs, to, you know, to unpack the real issues that are affecting Africa, border related things. And it's all efforts that are being done, and that's exactly what we want to talk about here, to say things are happening out there. Are you aware? Or if you are not, please take up that chance, or just have that motivation to be aware, to follow what is happening, because collective efforts obviously are the ones that we are going to continue on building Africa and learning from the past mistakes and all of these comments that are being made here. Well, I'm going to take from those that are raising hands. Yaovi, you can ask, and Tigi Dangi, you can be next.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. Depends on your location. So yeah, thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, some of us have mentioned this free trade for African, first among African countries, and between Africa and the rest of the world. Yeah, I would just like to share some, I can say, an opportunity on an initiative with you that we call Africa in Motion. Maybe some of you can already know about that organization. It's a big movement that aims at promoting this free space between Africa and the rest of the world, talking about trade. And I'm going to share some links in the chat box, even my LinkedIn profile. We can, some people who are interested in involving in our activities can join me or connect with me on LinkedIn, and so that we can do something like that. So yeah, African in Motion has some objectives. One of our objectives is to help leaders to participate in this those decision process, to help them to how we can call it, to have equal trade space between Africa and the rest of the world. So I'm not going to be more, and I'll stop here. I'll share the links, and if anybody has any question, I'm free to answer to those questions. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tigi Dangi. Tigi Dangi, are you there? Please ask your question you are raising. Master Yaovi, please put your hand down.
Hello. Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maria Matigidan Kisisi. A master's student from the 8th batch, Pan-African University, Target. Actually, it's just a concern, maybe question. Yeah, from the recommendation of the United Nations Women Commission on the opportunities for women entrepreneurs in the context of Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which aim to identify study opportunities for women entrepreneurs. With regard to the AfCFTA, focusing on 3 areas of interest for women in formal cross-border trade, just as our colleague Mutima Marasi was saying, as she mentioned, most of these cross-border tradings, well, I'm talking in aspects of the women, what the women face, because if we are talking about development, I believe like in every development, women play key roles. So talking about this cross-border informal trade, regarding women. Most times women face they face physical abuses and sometimes even sexual harassment from the hands of the custom office of officials, and which I believe like it's quite disturbing. Let me, if I can put it this way. And if you are talking about achieving this AfCFT thing through the contribution of women, and then women are being faced with this kind of challenges or maybe this kind of cruelty from these officials at borders, like how can we, what can be done to like to tackle this problem? Because I'm talking from the well, I don't want to say like experience, but like from what our women face from the borders whenever they are doing businesses on borders, from the borders trading in my country, which is one of the countries from West Africa, Sierra Leone. So this is actually what has been bothering me, like what can be done to put a stop to this, so that what exactly is to be achieved can be achieved. So this is my question: what can we put to like tackle all these kind of problems? Yeah, thank you.
Anyone from the speakers that want to answer? Chiwanzo, Mahren, Mohammed?
Okay, I'll take that one. I think Marlene, when she was giving a presentation on the phases of the implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, she did made mention of that phase 2 is going to focus on women and the youth. So I think it's a very pertinent issue that you have raised there, and the implementation of the AfCFTA has taken that into consideration, though it's in phase 2. It shows that they know the importance of the role of women and the youth in the continent. So that is one of the solutions towards tackling that problem, from my view.
Mahlen, you want to add?
Yeah, thank you so much. What I can add is like there is also the protocol that have been it's even finished by the Secretariat of AfCFTA that is looking into like a free trade area environmental aspect of it, and this sexual exploitation and abuse will be the key pillar in their agreement. And because we are in a launching phase and we still like the Secretariat is still focusing more on bringing more countries to ratify, to do the ratification, and it's not like it's a good thing, we couldn't even ignore that, but they are really only focusing on the security and like inclusiveness of all participants so that everyone will be safe. Those issues, they are there, but they are not like putting them aside, they are even looking into it. And I feel like as we progress, something good will be coming on the table, and those women will like enjoy like other counterpart men are enjoying this opportunity. Thank you.
All right, in addition to that, the African Union Protocol on Women in Trade, and like everyone said, all the highlighted developments or initiatives. I will also add that at national levels, national committees, AfCFTA committees are expected to also include this in their strategies. There are different countries that have launched their strategic plans, and some of them even launched. Namibia launched their national strategy this week on last Wednesday, and it's up to them to include this in their national strategic plan. And it's even up to us to put a pressure on this type of things, to say that we need to at least find ways to always follow what is happening so that we can be able to always recommend to our governments or everyone else, any other space we find ourselves on this type of issues. I'll move on to the next person to ask. Dahlia, are you there?
Yes, Frida, I'm here. Good afternoon. And good morning or good evening, wherever you are joining from. My name is Dahlia Mia, and I'm joining you from Namibia. I think perhaps first I need to thank the speakers. The topics were clearly presented. I think we thank you a lot for that. It was an eye-opener, especially with the historical background. And what I picked from the presentation for my sister, I think, is to say that we only have 44 countries which have rectified the agreement so far. Now, my question here is to say, probably I'm sensing that it's a fear of unknown. Now, we know in the African continent, we have small countries, we have big countries, with large populations, with small economies, so there's quite a different diversities. And I really want to understand how is the AfCFTA ensuring that the domestic market is protected? Because we know we have, when I'm following the discussions, I'm seeing that most of the countries which are already implementing these agreements and they are active, they are mostly from the Eastern and Western Africa. And when it comes to Southern Africa, I think quite a few countries have reached an advanced level yet. And probably there are most of the countries which also didn't rectify the agreements yet. So I just want to really understand how is the domestic market protected, especially where there's a lot of SMEs who were providing services or providing goods to their communities and they were surviving on that. And then the market is going to be opened up, and then it's probably going to be flooded with the most experienced product and services from across the border, which is a good thing, but we just kind of want to know how is this agreement protecting the SME in the market, especially the domestic market. Is there any protections in terms of saying probably there are specific sectors which can be limited to the domestic suppliers only? And also, my second question is in terms of the REC. I'm sure they also have their own requirements and criteria and so forth. Are they not? Is there no conflict in terms of integration into the agreements? I just want to. I think those are my two questions for now. Thank you, Frida.
Thank you so much for the questions. Juanza, are you able to answer the first question?
Okay, Dahlia, that's a well thought out question there. I mean, in regional integration schemes, it's always the case that countries are hesitant when it comes to opening up their economies, not only for the sake of the local industries, but also from the tariffs and the revenues that they will be getting from protectionism. That is, you charge tariffs. If I open up the border, it means there are no more tariffs. So with a myopic view, or with from a short-term point of view, they are more likely to lose revenues in the short term, and that is more likely. But in the long term, obviously, it will bring forth the benefits of trade creation, etc., etc. In the context of the AfCFTA, that is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area to date, I am not up to date on that particular issue concerning how they will protect the local industries of each member state. But we'll definitely consult if one of my members has that information, can definitely chip in and help out on that one. Thanks.
Okay, as far as I'm concerned, thank you. I'll add, as far as I'm concerned, that the countries are negotiating with those that are approaching each other. The trade agreement give the permission for countries to conduct each other to negotiate. Now they are going to dive deep in issues such as the rules of origins, where products are going to be analyzed and they are going to put tariffs, and they are going to agree that to say, okay, this product is from Nigeria, it's going to be charged this. Either we are going to remove the tariffs or we are going to put it lower, or at this point, different types of categories of products is going to be determined, but the negotiations are what matters most. And that's why there's a need for really education and a lot of awareness for our trade policymakers to make sure that they protect the national territories or national interest in a way that it's going to accommodate the unity of Africa. That is my general knowledge so far, unless if someone is going to add.
To add on that one, I think it's at the moment it's not okay. It's going to be implemented in phase 2 on competition policy, because it's more of a competition from a competition point of view, that how are we going to compete fairly with stronger economies? Are they not going to flood our economies with their goods and services, etc., etc.? So I think on the competition aspect, that's where that issue is tackled. On the details, as said earlier, I don't have the details.
Okay, any other question from anybody?
Yes, Frida, let me reply to the question. Let me reply to Delia by asking her another question. Can you get me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, Dalia, I think I'm pronouncing the name very well. Dalia, she's asking about the domestic, how we protect the domestic industry. Let me ask you something. Since the foundation of the African Union, one of the obstacles not to have an economic integration after conflicts, of course, is to protect the domestic manufacture, the domestic income, whatever what we say. But we have been protecting it for so long, for so many decades. Okay, so what happened? Is it growing up? It's not growing up. So should a country like DRC, let me tell you something. I'm now in Rwanda. Okay, I'm not far away from DRC. I want to bring something from Egypt and export it to DRC. So you have to stop me just because you have to protect your domestic industry. It doesn't make sense. People are starving over there, and they need my goods. Let us take German and Czech as an example. German, one of the strongest economies in the whole world. Okay, when they have the EU, why they didn't say Czech is a small economy? It will be affected by the German economy, the French economy. We have to liberalize our market. We need that. Why we need that? Because it has been so long, and we are lagged behind just because we have to protect our domestic market. So I think it's better to have a foreign good with monitoring from of course with monitoring from the state, which will be will receive our goods. Monitors to control the market, not to stop the export and import between two African countries, not between a European country and another African country. French products are everywhere in Africa. I don't know how they enter, but I have been in Cameroon. I have seen that most of the goods are coming from France. So why it's not coming from Morocco? Why it's not coming from Egypt. We have in Egypt, we can export in Egypt, but of course to export something from Egypt to Rwanda, they will say no, you have to pay that and this or that. So I think it's better we keep this domestic market aside from exporting and importing between the African countries, and we focus on how to provide the needs of the market. Since the beginning, the market was about demand and supply, and we are demanding and supplying within the country, within the whole within the continent, not outside the continent. So I think in political science we have what we call the event contagious. Like if you have a revolution in some country, in the neighbor country, it might be happening a revolution like what we have seen in the Arab Spring. The revolution came from Tunisia, African state, to Egypt, from Egypt to Libya. So why we don't allow the market, why we don't allow opening the market, the African market, I mean, so that maybe we will have a contagious between the African states. We will find out that the country which was not producing this good, now it's producing it because it was infected by the other country. This is my answer to the first question. The second question was the rigs, and there are no differences, there are no conflicts between the rigs. I have mentioned that the rigs are all monitored, are all controlled by the African Union in the Constitutive Act of the African Union, by the protocol that was signed between the African Union and the other rigs. So here is the role of the African Union is to control the relationship between the states, so that it will stop any conflicts between any state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Yes, the RECs are the building blocks of the AfCFTA. Any other question or comment, addition to the topic under discussion? The floor is open.
Okay, Frida, can I just make a general comment?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so the goal of all this, especially the crowning part of the AfCFTA, is the promotion of intra and extra African trade. So because the pivotal point of improving our economies is hinged on how we trade amongst ourselves. Actually, you find we are producing cocoa in Africa, and it's exported to industrialized countries like Europe, and it comes back 10 times, 15 times expensive than the raw material that we sold. Whereas within the continent, we can do that on ourselves. So the ultimate goal of this wonderful initiative is to try to promote intra-African trade. And the continent, there are people who are working who are banning the midnight oil, trying to work towards this agenda. We have multilateral banks in the continent. We have Afrexim Bank that Marlene mentioned. We have Africa Development Bank. They are there to finance these kinds of things. They are there to finance projects that promote intra-African trade. They are there to try to make sure that this becomes a reality. So it's something that is being worked on, and the goal is to promote intra-African trade. And it's also a call to action, I mean, to each and every person to find innovative ways that we can try to forward this integration agenda in our various communities, because it begins somewhere, right? It begins at the grassroots, according to as Frida mentioned earlier, at the grassroots, at our communities, to try and forward this agenda so that it can become a reality. So ultimately, I mean, each and every one of us is the future leaders. Are we actually let me say the current leaders? And we are the ones who are supposed to take this action and to take this thing seriously and try to see where we can place ourselves in order to take advantage of some of these finances being provided by this continent, because they are looking for projects that can promote integration in the continent. When the economic side is improved, we will see from the mind of the forefathers of Pan-Africanism, from their mind, that when we see the benefits of the economic integration, we also want to integrate in other aspects apart from the economics part. So hopefully the AfCFTA is a stepping stone towards more integration that is not only economic but social and even political. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. We're coming to the end of our webinar today. It was a very interesting session, and thanks everyone that tuned in. I'm handing over to the host so that he can now we can network in the inbox. You can send your details and get in touch with each other. I'll hand over to the host to conclude.
Okay, Farshida, thank you so much. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you so very much. Truly appreciate. It's an amazing thing having great minds. You know, I was very, very amazed by the way our speakers present the issues. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Great Minds Empire, I appreciate you. And we look forward to more engagement, not just here, in later days. And I will take this opportunity to invite you in one of our proposed events coming up in Ghana in 2023. We are talking about AfCFTA Young Implementers Summit. And I think our speakers are the implementers. Everyone on this show today is part of the implementers. So please, we hope that you will keep supporting us, and I keep supporting this initiative also. This is just by the way. Then the team will also get back to us probably for the next section. But in all, it has been amazing time. It has been amazing. Thank you. And I look forward to connect to each and every one of us. Please don't forget to drop your social media handles so that we can follow you. And in our next chat, we can also tag you. All the information, we have been sharing real-time information with our followers on Twitter. And also we had a lot of comment on some of our people following us on YouTube. You know, we have people saying it's an amazing, this is wonderful, this is timely. We truly appreciate them also, most especially the people that are following us also on the YouTube. Thank you so much. And we look forward to more engagement. So thank you so much, Frida. And I think I end from there. If I can begin to share the AfCFTA documentary from the African Union, if you permit me.
Yes, you can share. While we are still networking in the inbox.
Please, if you cannot hear the voice, just let me know so that
we are calling on everybody to think Africa.
Can you hear?
The sound is going on and off.
It's an opportunity which Africa should not miss.
We can hear. We can hear.
we are implementing the Africa we want.
A lot of the countries understand that this is good for them, that it is a game changer.
This is an historic moment for our continent.
So this is entirely African driven. These African countries are making a treaty among themselves.
We've been brought up with so many borders. You know, we have our little countries, we have our little economies, our little sectors. We have so many things that divide us, and I think this is an opportunity to really push against those boundaries and to change them.
As the old adage goes, there is strength in unity. For the 55 African Union member states, that strength lies in numbers. With a population of 1.2 billion and a GDP of $2.5 trillion, the prospect and now realization of a continental free trade area for Africa promises to usher in a new era of industrialization and business opportunities towards the realization of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want.
It has been a long journey, difficult and long, but we had visionaries. When we created the Organization of African Unit in 1963, President Nkrumah of Ghana made a clarion call: Africa must unite. In June 2015, the heads of state and government had an assembly in Johannesburg, and they adopted the principles for negotiations, the roadmap, as well as the institutions. And we had several rounds of negotiations. Then the regional communities came in to give technical inputs with other strategic partners, namely the African Development Bank, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. And the initial good results were established in December 2017. Then in January, we gave the report to the heads of state and government, and they were very impressed. They said the remaining work can be done in a short time, so let's have a signing ceremony on 21st March 2018 in Kigali. And we were able to produce the consolidated text that was signed today. It's composed of the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area and the protocol on trade in goods, the protocol on trade in services, and the protocol on the settlement of disputes. And this is where we are.
The African Continental Free Trade Area will affect the development of African countries by boosting employment opportunities, increasing food security, increasing competitiveness of African industrial products, and enhancing participation of the continent in global trade.
For us, the African Continental Free Trade Area, of course, it's a flagship project of Agenda 2063, but more than that, it's an instrument for solidarity, and it's an instrument for connection between African people and and basically dismantling the borders and the barriers that are there, because there are great opportunities for goods to move more efficiently, for services, as well as people. So I think that for us, it's a very important lever for achieving multiple objectives.
Well, what got us here is increasing realization that everywhere neighbors trade with neighbors. This is normal. What has been an anomaly for this continent is that since the 15th century, our trade has been directed primarily outside the continent. And that has to do with the way that Africa was inserted into the global economy. So this is what we are trying to reverse. So everything Our infrastructure has been built to support taking commodities from the interior to the ports and out to the north. So everything concerning trade has been organized around that external trade.
The CFTA negotiations have been complex, needing to take into consideration the individual interests of member states. Beyond the signing of the CFTA, individual countries will need to ratify the agreement.
There is supposed to be a process of ratification before the agreement can come into force. And for ratification, we need 22 member states to deposit their instruments of ratification, meaning that they have gone through their internal, local, national processes for accepting the documents. And then once we have 22 instruments of ratification, then that is when it now comes into force. The agreement that we are creating is not a mere declarative statement or a mere policy statement. It is actually a legal agreement that creates rights, obligations. So we think that at the end of the day, this is an agreement that will have some teeth. But I think beyond all that, there is a political commitment to see this done.
Intra-African trade is one of the lowest of any region globally. The impact of the CFTA will mean Africa's industrial exports are able to diversify, encouraging a move away from extractive commodities such as oil and minerals. Economic integration for the continent will further provide harmony of customs, borders, and the movement of goods.
What this initiative is all about is to say to ourselves, okay, let's create a legal framework, let's establish a treaty so that there is certainty, because in trade, your business person wants to know that those goods that are going across are not going to be seized or discriminated against in some way, that it will be a level playing field. And also our tariffs are relatively high, over 6% is the average across the continent. To say we want to bring this down to zero, which is what they have agreed for 90% of products, and also to deal with non-tariff barriers like your roadblocks, your anti-trade behavior along the border, harassment at the border.
The flagship project of Agenda 2063 promises to be the world's largest free trade area. But what are the practical implications of having the CFTA implemented? And how exactly would an agreement of this magnitude revolutionize business and movement across Africa?
My mother was a small-scale trader after retiring from her teaching profession. So from very practical terms, having seen people like my mother, small traders, this will facilitate their movement, because alongside the signing of the CFTA, there are also member states, 27 member states signed on to the free movement protocol, movement of persons. So cutting the red tape, knowing predictable tax regimes, common external tariff barriers. This gives them assurance, it gives them predictability, and it also gives them a sense that they have protections that are continental.
The most interesting thing to know about this kind of legal agreement is that in certain ways, it protects the little man the most. At the end of the day, for the small man, for the entrepreneur in Nigeria or some other country, the fact that there is a legal agreement that gives him rights as well as obligations actually makes it easier for that little or that young entrepreneur, that small SME company to take the right decisions, because you know that you are not going in on your own, you are going in with the entire legal framework of the African Union.
We have signaled to the world that we want to come together, and we do not want the Africans and the rest of the world to say the leaders made a grand celebration to sign the instruments, but they are not producing results. So we are focusing on tangible results, because this is what the ordinary Africans expect. And the business community is going to join us in the advocacy program. The parliamentarians are going to join us. The civil society organizations are also going on. So Africa at large is committed.
We have to basically galvanize all the stakeholders who are going to make this happen. It's not government that's going to trade. It's the private sector. It's the young entrepreneurs. It's the cross-border traders who are women, who are going to ask the question, who should be asking the question, so what does this mean for me? So implementation, I think, will be something that happens at different levels. It will be at the national level, where countries who are signatory to the agreement, first of all, engage stakeholders on how to go about this. And the other level is the regional level, because as we know, regional economic communities have been working with member states, also in terms of the regional blocks. And so that's another level of implementation.
In addition to the overall contribution to achieving Agenda 2063 and Agenda 2030, the average person can expect some tangible benefits on the ground from the implementation of the CFTA. Practical benefits for businesses, consumers, and trade are also on the cards.
My business is just to make those dresses for ladies, to design ladies and men. I want to make the thing bigger. I want to be there with my people, about 100 people. To bring material, it's a problem of taxes. They charge us money. If they say that no taxes, in fact, my business will go further.
I'm selling clothes. I bought them from South Africa, Dar es Salaam, Nairobi. When I'm bringing my goods back, we have problems because they ask us to pay. But if you don't want to pay, they take your goods. When you don't have all the money, you bribe.
First thing will be lack of common standard between countries, between neighboring countries. Like certain laws apply in Uganda do not apply in Congo, and that ends up causing a lot of delays. I give you for example, I can send a product from here to Kigali, which is fine, but if I try to send it to my client in Congo, the costs and delays. That in terms of drivers have to have visas, the permit to drive in, insurance, and the law differ. Whatever they like, they can apply, and we have to obey by it. And that sometimes end up pushing the cost higher and also increasing delays. That means instead of truck doing 2 to 3 trips a month, you end up doing 1 trip. And then for you to accommodate those costs, you have to charge your customer high. Personally, I'm very happy to see something is being worked on this area because it's going to help us a lot in this sector.
The African Continental Free Trade Area represents a watershed for Africa in terms of trade and political relations. This seismic shift for the continent is all the more profound in the current global trend towards insular politics and isolationism. Africa's harmonization also represents the opportunity for boosting of intra-regional value chains and to attract a larger share of global investment portfolios.
Intra-African trade, minimal though it is, involves processed goods rather than raw commodities. So the point about increasing intra-African trade is that you find that African countries will need to apply more science and technology to production. So in addition to this, we are saying as a commission that it's important to emphasize education, because our aim is to have every African child in school between now and 2020. You have every African child in school, you have a numerate and a literate Africa with the cultural level raised. They can begin now to imbibe capital and leverage science and technology in production. So you find that more intra-African trade will occur, more processing will occur within the African continent.
The general populace have to be sensitized on what safety is, what it stands for, and what are the benefits. When that is achieved, what we call informal trade, cross-border trade, will not be informal anymore. Because all these borders, as far as trade is concerned, all these borders will become meaningless, will become fictitious. People will be free to move from one country to another. So this will take time. So I think at the beginning what needs to be done is the advocacy, public advocacy, to make sure that every single African, irrespective of their status, economic and social status, know what CFTA stands for, what are the benefits for him or her, you know, when it becomes operational.
This platform will allow us to harmonize our different national policies, to regularize and harmonize so that we can trade amongst ourselves on the continent. We have a lot of challenges on food security. This will allow us to really, diversify our economy and really provide food in some affected countries by the climate change. For instance, we have some countries that are really highly affected by drought and all the hazard of the climate change. The region can easily facilitate the circulation of foods and animal protein from one country to another. I think it is a chance for us to really realize this inter-African trade.
While the CFTA is essentially an economic project, it is deeply entrenched in the aspirations found in Agenda 2063 and feeds directly into other aspirations for integration, such as the Single African Passport. Launched in 2016, the full implementation by member states of the Single African Passport would further enhance trade and movement of people across the continent. Other flagship projects, such as the Single African Air Transportation Market, also stand to benefit from the CFTA. The Single African Air Transportation Market primarily aims to increase connectivity across the continent by creating a single African sky, and thus further enhancing economic integration.
The essence of the Single African Air Transport Market is to have a single African sky, like the one we see in Europe, like the one we see in Northern America. Airlines, formidable airlines, licensed airlines, should be able to move from one point to another, whether on a direct flight or whether on transit. The air transport market liberalization will make sure that now business is open to everybody. And we think with liberalization now, the airfares will go down. These are some of the issues the Single African Air Transport Market is geared to resolving. A single African sky, where every airline will be able to go anywhere, to fly passengers and goods anywhere in Africa.
While the benefits of the CFTA are undoubtedly revolutionary across the continent, the African Union recognizes that the implementation of Africa's most ambitious plan to date must have the buy-in and wholly be committed to by all member states, the regional economic communities, and ultimately by citizens themselves.
Okay, to everyone that stayed to this time, thank you so much, Sumaya. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, big time. Thank you, so God bless you richly. Thank you all. Oh, am I the only one inside? Yeah. See, thank you guys. So
No,
we can call it. So we can call it a date. See you next, and we'll communicate behind the scene. Thank you, Lavilla
Bye.
Helena. Thank you, Precious. Thank you, Yovi, and our people, the Sierra Leone Unite. Thank you so much. God bless you.